put this one on, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, we will get started with our next session here on interdisciplinary teams. Okay, we will go do our next round now on interdisciplinary teams, and with us today we have Megan Elliott, who is the founding director of the Johnny Carson Center for Emerging Media Arts at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. She has the distinct pleasure, I think, and wonderful task of figuring out how to create the next digital emerging media curriculum. So I think that she's been studying all of that, and we can also be part of her focus group. So, Megan, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation, Professor Kebbell. I'm very happy to be at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. Sorry, you can tell I'm from West Nebraska with my accent. Champaign-Urbana, because to speak about artificial intelligence, because this is where HAL 9000 was born in 1992 from 2001: The Space Odyssey. So I think that's very exciting. So I was asked to speak about interdisciplinary teams, and according to a 2016 survey of employers, more than 80% of them wanted their recent grads to have leadership capabilities, and then straight behind it, 79% they wanted them to be able to work in teams and to demonstrate that. So right now, we're going to walk in teams. Loving it, aren't you? All right, we're going to do the Marshmallow Challenge. So you need to organise yourselves in 2 teams of 4, or if there's 10 of you, 2 teams of 5. Okay, and you've got 4? Okay, now I need team leaders to come and get scissors and a packet and to take a piece of string off there. Come on, this is I've lost the clicker thing. All right.
You said take a piece of string?
Yeah, take a piece of tape. I've lost the clicker. Oh, there it is. Okay, so you've got 20 sticks of spaghetti, you've got 1 yard of tape, you've got 1 yard of string, and you've got 1 marshmallow. And you have 18 minutes. And your task is to build the tallest structure. And at the top of the structure, the marshmallow must be on it. You are not allowed to eat the marshmallow, lick the marshmallow, or do anything to the marshmallow, and you are automatically disqualified. You're not allowed to use the envelope. You can break up the spaghetti, you can rip up the string, that's why you've got scissors, you can do whatever you want, but that's all you've got, and 18 minutes. Is that clear? Any questions? Okay, and if I can, and you've got a soundtrack, and I'm going to put the clock on now. Thank you for indulging me. I actually have prizes. I forgot to tell you.
You know my motto, who has the ambition?
By the way, this model joining career, by the way.
Now, for the winning team, I have 4, so I'll have to get some more since there were more than 4 of you. Amazon gift cards.
Thank you.
You can share them amongst yourselves or sort it out.
Thank you.
Okay, now I did have this entire big presentation set up for you. I'll do a little bit, and then I'm just going to turn it over to exactly what Gary said. But we'll just go through this. So congratulations, winning team. Who consistently performs poorly at this marshmallow test has been given hundreds of, it's been done hundreds of thousands of times all over the world, right? These people, business grads, consistently have the shortest towers ever. And that's because, or actually first ask, who generally performs the best? Kindergarten grads. And the reason, they don't sit around and talk about who's going to be CEO of Spaghetti Town. But the actual reason that, that business students perform generally quite poorly is because they're trained to find the single right plan and execute upon it. And to have a culture of genius as opposed to a culture of development. And the kindergarten kids, they start with the marshmallow first. They don't wait till the end to go, oh, they start with it first and then they continually iterate. So they're getting feedback all the time over those 18 minutes to be able to build something. So it's an iterative design process. So that's why we learn from that exercise that prototyping matters. The other teams that consistently perform well are interdisciplinary teams. CEOs build relatively okay high towers. I think the average heights, the top height's normally about 39 inches. CEOs get in at 20 or so, so less than you. But if you put their admin assistants in with them, it'll go up by another 15%. Because you've got people who can facilitate and people who are specialists. So we know that diversity matters. I was going to do this whole big presentation. I'm going to do some of it, and then I'm going to show you the curriculum that I gave to my dean and my advisory council last Friday, and then I'm going to show you what he did to me yesterday, and we're going to talk about it. Oh, we're not live. I'm going to not live stream this. Like we're so not. Because I think, yeah, this is a perfect opportunity, right? So for those who don't know, the Johnny Carson Centre, we've been given challenged by the Carson Foundation to differentiate ourselves as an emerging media arts program for the 21st century. That was the condition on which they gave us 20 million, which has been leveraged to 57 million. I define emerging media as technologies and media arts as creativity, so it's story and technologies. That's my prettiest slide. My advisory council that I put together is pretty amazing, and it includes people like Noah Falstein, he's called the father of serious games, chief games designer at Google. Alex McDowell, he's an art director, narrative designer. He's done the Minority Report, Fight Club. He's just quit. He just quit the next Star Wars and came home. Maureen Fan, she founded Baobab Studios. They raised 25 million. They're a VR company. I mean, which content company raises that kind of money, right? I've also got Sean Stewart, who is the creative director on Magic Leap, and they're the world's largest funded startup with 1.4 billion. And those people, when I sent them out my curriculum, they weighed in on it. And so I might just read you. I'm going to read you something that Noah Falstein wrote back to me. I particularly like the interdisciplinary approach in encouraging the students to draw on different kinds of skills and overlapping fields to complete their degrees. I expect that will be key to preparing them for the world that they'll face, including art forms that are only now nascent or even yet to be established. I hope there is to be a strong emphasis on learning how to learn and enjoying lifelong learning, encouraging the students to constantly expand and refine their knowledge, interest and mastery of appropriate tools. Since this is such a future-facing curriculum and will therefore need to take into account that much of what they'll learn will be quickly replaced or superseded as they advance into their careers. Accordingly, they'll need to be encouraged throughout their education to be fearless in tackling new areas, voraciously curious and persistent in their quest to attain mastery of current and new skills and tools. I try to weed out potential students that seem to have already found one narrow specialty and want to focus exclusively on that, even if they're very good within that discipline. So I think that's interesting advice coming from a potential employer of our students to weed out those who only have one focus. And all of the feedback that I've done and the curriculum sprints I've had has led me to this. I want to create Xshaped Storytellers, people who have mastery in design, story, entrepreneurship and code, which maps, I think, perfectly onto the cognitive capacities that we now need our students to have. And I won't lie, I tell you, I'm being totally affected by this book, Robot Proof. It's Higher Education in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. It's just been published 2 weeks ago by Joseph E. Owen, who is the president of Northeastern University. I'll lend it to you, Amy, once I've finished. And these are the cognitive capacities that, that Joseph believes every student needs to have to beat the robots. Because our new literacies, our 3 new literacies, are data literacy, technological literacy and human literacy. And I think what he posits and what I've been hearing today again and again from people is that if we're to succeed in the age of the robots and the age of machine learning and neural networks and artificial intelligence, our only hope is to become more human, to engage our critical thinking and our systems thinking and our empathy and our creativity to develop that so that that muscle is more powerful than ever. Because Machines, it'll be a long time till machines have those skills. Because actually knowing stuff now, wow, I know so much, I read so much, well, big deal, machines know that. That can be replaced. But having that human capacity, the critical capacity, the ability to understand systems thinking, I think is what will help us win. Because software is eating the world. And that was my other little Easter egg in there. Marc Andreessen, who invented Netscape at this university. I tried. Mobile conference. For those young people who maybe only grew up with a smartphone in hand, 19 other gadgets have gone into your smartphone. That's 19 industries, and all of those factories and jobs have gone. And I was going to tell you about CBS Digital, and I will share this with you, and then we'll get on to what I was saying. So I've been in conversation with Christy, the GM of CBS Digital, who's kind of pulling her hair out because they are making they're distributing news in different ways on their 24-hour online channel, right? And their audience skews 37. Over-the-air television, audience is 70. Right? So if you leave journalism school and you go and do your internship at NET for you Nebraskans, you learn how to make television for 70-year-olds. CBS News Digital, Vice, BuzzFeed, they don't want news like that. So you're doing yourself out of a job, right? You're being trained for an age that no longer exists. So she's pulling her hair out. But that's okay, because the advisory council introduced her to us, and she's coming to Nebraska so that we're going to have a hackathon and we can start to develop some new tools for her to use for the midterm election. Plus, they're also really excited, not just because they want to see what we can do, because I've been pitching the journalism school and our students who won't exist until 2019 anyway, but she also wants to try and learn from us how they got the sentiment analysis so wrong. Was it the tools they were using? How are they not listening to the voices in the middle of the country? And the other thing they want to do is to look at some hacking, like with the rake students and whatever else, some other processes about if journalists are spending 60% of their time pumping data into a CMS, how can we make those efficiencies inside the newsroom to free up your time? So that's some exciting stuff. And I had a big bang on about that, but I'm not going to, because I've got too much talent in the room to waste when I could be getting feedback. So we've had lots of sprints. So I'm developing an undergraduate curriculum. And then a graduate curriculum. And this is what it kind of was looking like. 4-year degree. Big year-long courses, Story Lab, which is all about telling stories, straight narrative, then going into transmedia, chatbots, whatever we can get through in a year. Big visual expression studio, colour, design, but also making videos and stories for Snapchat. Big computation and media studio, JavaScript, CSS, but then moving on to Arduino and Raspberry Pi so that people can learn about sensors and, physical computing. Games, play and performance, which is my favourite. That's where you do learn improv theatre, because CMU, Carnegie Mellon's University, they have a graduate program called the Entertainment Technology Centre. Their students are employed the day they enrol, and they say that their secret sauce is that they teach them improv theatre. Because when you learn improv, you get a body muscle memory that learns to say yes and. And then you also learn the 3 rules of improv, which is always be nice to play with, serve the story, i.e. serve a higher purpose, and make your partners look good. So if those of you go and get into an improv class, I come from theatre, so I think that's important. Anyway, then we're having these emphasis, right? So on this here, experience design, which is all about things that, like students who can come and work in your institute, so that kind of thing, but also extended theatre, meaningful interactions, which is really gameplay which is really game design and interactions, but realising that now those kind of interactions happen in real life, in immersive media, in VR, not just like on the screen. And also we're all questioning, I've heard today, it's so exciting, about how to do that in an environment of ubiquitous computing and when the screen goes away. We come out of a film program, so cinema's still there. Virtual productions I've got rid of. So my question to you now, a story, there's some more. We had it that we needed to have, that to get some kind of mastery, you needed to have 4 units in something, 4 sequential courses. Not sequential, but a group of 4. And then on Thursday, being very frank with you, aren't I? My dean suggested, and actually I'll tell you, some of this, my advisory council came back and said, not bold enough, not bold enough, where's the programmable biology? Okay, where's the programmable biology? Let me...
Well, 100 items in your inbox.
Yeah.
That's low. Yeah, that's low. Trying to get below 1200. Winning the day.
Well, oh, come on, Word. Exactly. I thought today I'm going to replace part of my person I work with, their job description with that .ai bot. So this is another suggestion that's been put to us, and I'm asking is that we do that. Our emphases only becomes three sequential courses, and then they could do three different emphases in emerging media. And also my dean has suggested that we offer 5-week mini courses, which are worth 1 credit each, in terms of how do we transfer those hardcore skills around Photoshop, Maya, CAD, Python, Unity. What do you think? Can you actually effectively teach or learn? I mean, you're going to be learning in the Visual Expression Studio, which is the year-long course. You're going to learn some stuff around Photoshop and, editing Premiere, because you're going to be making stuff with, your iPhones and video cameras and whatever else. But you won't do a big deep dive into it. What do you think? Is 5-week little kind of fat jab injections of hardcore skills enough? Or would we lead to just generating a melange of a person? Do you know what I mean? Like somebody who's not X-shaped at all, who's just not even T-shaped, they're just blah.
All the data journalists I know are self-taught.
Yeah.
Even if they've taken a few courses. All. I don't know, so you're talking about changing it.
Yeah, well, this is none of...
You just want people to be familiar with what's possible.
Sorry, what's the question?
You just want people to be familiar with what's possible, or do you want them actually to be able to be programmers?
Python and C++ you're not going to get.
Do in 5 weeks.
And,
No.
And this, I've often struggled with this because coding, I believe, kind of transfers into a very different skill set. Yes, you need to understand the capabilities
Yeah,
of it.
but you don't need to do it yourself.
Dear God, if
Yeah.
you're the person who can do all of that, you're
Yeah.
a special
Yeah,
person.
exactly.
And I kind of want to put that coding off
Yeah.
to somebody, but that interpretation is...
To have an interdisciplinary team.
Because I shouldn't know C++. I just
Yeah.
shouldn't.
Yeah.
Is my-
Yes, but in introducing students and getting them comfortable learning new things and teaching them systems thinking and challenging them in little ways, I think even though you're not going to be a back-end developer after all of this stuff, at the same time, you're not necessarily hurting them. What you want people to come out of school and go, you know what, I actually like that, using Beautiful Soup to do scraping in Python. So maybe that starts them. So it gets to what Dan was saying about what direction do you want? Do you want to create a love of learning and challenge them and get them to think ways that are broadly applicable, or are you trying to create a developer? Because that you're not going to do.
No. No, I think it's about how, I think everybody, that's that data literacy and technology literacy piece is. It's also like it's the new, those 7 things I spoke about, the 3 literacies and the 4 cognitive capabilities. It's almost like the new arts and sciences, right? It's a new, like the 3 data literacies are the new arts trivium, for example. So no, they're not going to be crack Unity developers unless they choose to be, and they'll learn that by going over to computer science.
I kind of wish computer science folks would learn the rest of this, because the number of Unity developers I've worked with where I'm like, why would you do that? Because they don't have the storytelling and the user experience and the UX side. So it's like crossover on both sides.
Well, we're going to try and do that with our capstone projects, where we tip them all in together. That's yep.
As you get students who are coming from all sorts of disciplines in the first place, and still being students, don't know precisely what they want to do yet, number 1, and don't know what the possibilities are, number 2. I love the idea of many mini courses to familiarize them with what can be done,
Yeah.
and to hope that from that, taking 5 or 7 of those, they've learned, okay, 6 of them I hate,
Yeah.
but 1 I'm really good at, and that 1 I'm good at I never would have found had I not been forced to take these mini courses.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, please.
As a current journalism student, I think that this is a great idea just because there are so many areas that I know I'm not going to pursue in depth, but I'd still like to know just what they are in general and like he said, what they can do, what's possible with them. Like, I would just like to know the basics of Dreamweaver for work purposes and stuff like that, but I'll never be taught that in
Yeah.
a class right now
Yeah.
here in our curriculum. So yeah, I think that it's great. They're just mini courses, so it's not like it's a semester long in-depth
Yeah.
commitment anyway. So from a student perspective, I think that exploring as many topics as you can can't ever hurt you.
Yep.
I was going to say, they're almost trailheads to future learning.
Yeah.
This
Okay.
is the beginning.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I'll say that
I just graduated from undergrad and then did my master's, and I'm in my first job. And looking back, I do think there was actually a lot of fear-mongering when I was in school that if you don't know this, you're not going to get a job. If you don't know this, you're not going to get a job. And then for some people, their first job out, they can do all of this stuff, and that's great. But for a lot of us, we don't do this at our first job out. And it's almost like learning some programs and some software in college was almost like a crutch, because we're learning to do all of this stuff with this specific kind of technology that our university can pay for, but my first newsroom can't pay for some of the software and some of these
Right.
editing tools.
Right.
So, but for some people that's great because they can get that job right away and do all of those things. So it's great to have it right after school, but I don't know, I like dipping kind of your fingers in the pies and getting a taste of it instead of just like being so, stressed and panicked about I have to know every single thing.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to get a job at all.
Yeah. That's a good thing, I think, about the world now. You don't have to know every single thing, but you do have to know how to work in a team. And as our brilliant friend here said, you need to have like a boundary object of shared language. Yeah.
So, a couple of things, and maybe this is just my former department head hat that I'm wearing right now. It seems really tricky to me to staff all of these mini courses. Like, that seems like a lot of, especially when what you really want to focus on is the other conceptual kind of learning. And so I wonder, I've seen models before where, for example, a journalism program teamed with the economics department to create an econ class for journalists.
Yep.
Right, that would be more directed at what right, rather than just having it be like microeconomics, right? So I wonder if there isn't some sort of idea in there where maybe you can team up with CS to have like the one sort of overview thing, like here's kind of how some of this stuff works.
Yeah.
Like in a way that, yeah, you get exposed to it, but you don't have to become an expert in it, and maybe your newsroom isn't even gonna have it. You know what I mean? But like you get the kind of background thing, and then that way it isn't like up to you to find people to staff like 10,000 courses.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm a senior, but last year I attempted to take a computer science, just introductory course, and dropped it within the first 2 sessions, just because I was like, people came and already, even though it was an introductory course, they already seemed like they knew what was going on. And I was just like, I don't belong in here, but I still wanted to learn that. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Should I push it? Yeah. I'm an international student here in the University of Nebraska. And I can say from my perspective as being a student, I did my summer internship in startup, an IT startup, and it's really, it's really difficult, like software program, helping mobile app developers to earn more with this platform. So it's app mediation platform, some kind of, and they invited me as they invited me to join their team as a content manager. And all of a sudden, all our team of developers, they realized that they started reading our blog articles, and they realized now they have a person who can write better than they. And they asked me to do a lot of interface and localization things. And now I got an offer from this company to be a product manager over there. Wow. And if it wasn't Adam Wagley's course in our university on interactive media design, if it wasn't this course, I had no idea what code is and how to talk to developers, and so I came there just as a content manager, and I ended up as a product manager, and university courses helped me a lot. So I think it's a good idea, just an introduction should be helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. That's fantastic. What's the startup? What is the startup?
It's called App Deal, so it's like app plus deal.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know them. Yep.
I think that your course is a great idea. I just think it's a little short. Even though I'm a quick learner, it's like it would be more of having 3 weeks for each session that you're trying to teach, because you have to have where people can mess around with the software first, and then to get what you want as a teacher, you want that product at the end when you have that activity that you want them to put out for you, so you know that they've actually learned something. So for your mini course, I would say at least 3 weeks for each software, because they're more entailed.
Thank you. Okay, I will show you something now that I've learned that I was going to do as part of the presentation, just to share this knowledge, because I think it's awesome. And it pertains to journalism, and it pertains to anything creative. And actually, who's seen this? So Airbnb did this in partnership with News Deeply, which is a journalism startup. And it's basically, I guess, as we all know about missing data sets, and that actually now one of the newest jobs around is a data ethnographer, somebody who can look at a data set, can date it, can tell you what's wrong with it, can tell you what's missing. Who's seen the videos about the African-American programmer who programs for facial recognition, but the cameras don't recognise her face? Look up the coded gaze on YouTube, right? And the reason for that is because the guys in their hoodies who are making the facial recognition software, they're only feeding it pale-skinned faces, right? So my friends who are about your colour, if I may say that, their Snapchat in certain lights won't work on them, because it doesn't recognise anything that's sort of darker than mine. So this is about investigating that in terms of all of our creativity. And so they believe that designers and journalists have the responsibility to shine a light on their bias. And so they had these 3 guiding principles: balance your bias, consider the opposite, and embrace a growth mindset. And this is awesome. Any creative can do it. And they've got these wonderful cards. Balance your bias. And then behind the question, it tells you, what is this? What are my lenses? And it has a whole heap of these. And I've printed them out wanting the screenwriting class to look at them. But they're really great questions. And I've been questioning this even as I've been going through the curriculum, like when I was being challenged on my games play and performance. It's like, well, am I hanging on to that just because I'm a bloody Aussie? Or, or is this criticism or feedback real? What's here, and a curriculum, what's here that I've designed for me as a 46-year-old woman that can't use Snapchat? Or what have I designed for, people who won't have used the keyboard, who turn up in the course in 10 years' time? So this is a really good tool, and I think something, is my audience open to change? This is about embracing a growth mindset. What am I challenging as I create this? How can I reframe a mistake? If I could learn one thing to help me on this project, what would that one thing be? So again, these are kind of the underlying principles that I'm trying to inject into the curriculum design. And this one, which is particularly important for every woman and man I know, do I need to slow down? And generally we do. So that's just a really cool tool. And you can, if you look up Airbnb, another lens. I think it's very important.
Megan, I think another question that fits in well there is it new or is it new to me?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the challenge, isn't it, when you're designing a curriculum coming out of a film school, which people weren't going to support because it isn't of the 21st century. People were worried about their jobs, and we've got to be worried about our students' jobs. I don't care about your job. Sorry, you're not my problem right now. But that's tough, right? That's really tough. And even thinking about, well, it's all very good to say that DNA is the next USB because it's a data storage device and we can program it and I can ship them, do some basic stuff in the Johnny Carson Centre and then ship them over to biology. But is there really a job there in programming biology as an artist? I'm not too sure there is. I mean, it's great that you can do it, but whether or not that's valid, I don't know.
And I think to add that, I mean, just playing on what I've learned at the museum, in the museum space, is not just is it new to me, is it new to everybody else? Like reversing that.
Yeah.
Because I think, as well, and asking the opposite question, because I think in the academic space and in the industry space, we tend to think, oh, well, that's so done.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about Google Cardboard. Like, we still have 10,000 sitting in our basement. We just are trying to give them away. And then we went to a fair and started handing them out. And people, had no idea what they were.
Yeah.
Once we explained them, thought they were amazing, had never seen one before, had never used one. I mean, we're talking 90%. So Google Cardboard is new to most people. And I would say we thought that was so passé. I mean, Google's we were just going to junk them and not give them out. We're like, they're actually a motivator for people to come. If we give them away for free, people will come to the museum.
Well, I guess people of our age too who have been here since the day dot. When I started my company in 2004, the only thing that was around was MySpace. There was no Y Combinator, there was nothing. And so we took our company, which was basically an event which helped mentor local companies to get or startups to get their ideas to market. We could take that to 14 countries and 22 cities around the world, funded by governments, because digital was so nascent. But it's a bit like, we've become a bit jaded.
Yeah, you get a weird perception, and
Exactly.
and checking yourself against what the public actually thinks is really good to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I liked your 79% of people hadn't experienced the VR before. Yeah. But I'll put up my deets and please feedback about curriculum or ideas or students or jobs or fears. Like if you are current students in the room, if there's things you totally despise about your university experience and you like we must not do it, please let me know. Because you're the people who are in the depth of that experience at the moment. And even though this has been live streamed and I've talked about my DEAM, generally secrets are safe with me. I'm sure he wouldn't mind. It's all promoting the Carson Centre, all about transparency. And the other thing that we're just starting to do is actually to design the space. And so, again, any feedback people might have about brilliantly designed learning spaces for emerging media or things that, any ideas, I would love to hear them. Because I'm on this, for those who don't know, I'm on the world's most crazed timeline. But
it'd be great to talk. This is something museums, and we're just about to head off to the Association of Science and Technology Centers. And all these huge science and technology centers are like, let's make maker spaces. Let's do maker spaces. And a lot of them have room, huge amounts of space. We are way larger than we can be, and we've talked about what do we do with that space, and how do we invite the community into that space in a way that encourages critical thinking and design thinking, and what role can natural history museums and science museums play in that as being sort of, we've got the audience, what do we do with them when we get them here?
Yeah. Exactly, and that lifelong learning piece, because again, this book this book is so great, and everyone talks about lifelong learning all the time now. But it's a real thing to actually have that as a body memory in yourself to want to continue to do. As opposed to that fixed mindset that I'm born with all my capabilities, I can never get better. Which I think it's really tough. And how do our public institutions play into that? Because the machines are coming, and there are a lot of jobs that are going to have to be replaced, and we're not sure where we're going to find them. So, Sorry to be a downer, but we do know that the place that the machines can't take over is the creative, speculative futures. And that's something I'd say to you, young women here, is that you bring the future into being. You don't walk into it. So it's like me talking about Hal, the computer, who's now here, right? Who's now here in the world, like sentient things like that. But Stanley Kubrick, Douglas Copeland, famous sci-fi writer, said to Stanley Kubrick, what are robots going to, who made Hal the Space Odyssey? He's a filmmaker, right? He's dead now, but he's a very famous filmmaker. And Douglas said, what are the robots going to look like in 50 years, Stanley? And Stanley said, however we design them today. And it's true. So the stories we're writing, the stories we're telling, the stories on our screens, the games we're playing, that's the kind of future we will bring into being. So if you don't want that kind of future to come into being, you change the narrative. Thank you.
That's a good thought.